and welcome back to part 18 of Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, where today, after the event that was Puzzle Boy, we're going to explore the entirety of Asakusa. As I've said before, you can't actually advance the plot or continue the game properly until you do this. There's 2 flags you have to trigger throughout Asakusa before you can advance the plot. And both of them have cutscenes tied to them, so you're at no real threat of missing them. Essentially, in the main hall, there's a left split and a right split. I talked about this the other day, but since it's the part where we are exploring it, I'll talk through it again. On the left split, you'll go for a couple locations, and then there'll be a cutscene near the end. On the right split, you go for a couple locations, cutscene near the end. So it's very simple. You go through one side, get the cutscene, go back, take the other path, get the cutscene, go back, and when you get to the save terminal, you'll be told what your next actual objective is going to be. But as we are working our way through there, I can talk about my recording expedition, how that's been so far. I've had my first instance of lost footage, and thankfully it wasn't much. I didn't lose anything significant, but there will be a point later on where I'll have to explain what I did, because I did a part of a side quest. It's a very small part, and if I explain it to you guys, you'll be fine. But it's a very tiny part that was like 90 seconds of me just running over there and triggering it. That instead I go back to where I was I lost the footage and ran to it, but I'd already saved by then, so I have to show you I just show you the path I took, and then when I get to that bit, I'm like, this is where the side quest was, and I've done it. I've triggered this part of it now. But yeah, that's not for a while yet anyway, because that's literally like what I recorded yesterday as of this upload. But I guess today, whilst we're exploring Asakusa, before we get to the cutscene heavy side of this video, I can talk about the rest of the E3 that I didn't really talk about much yesterday because I spent so much of it harping on about how excited I am for Shin Megami Tensei 5. Which, can you blame me of how much of... I'd like to think I've shown you guys that I'm a big SMT fan one way or another. I've yet to play 1 or 2, and I want to at some point. I just know they're very difficult to go back to because of how old they are. And not in the same vein as like Persona 1 and 2 where they're dated. No, it's like Bard's Tale, I think it's supposed to be. Classic Bard's Tale is how SMT 1 and 2 work. Where it's first-person dungeon crawling, one tile at a time, encounters up the wazoo, and every dungeon is an extremely detailed and elaborate maze. And so just by nature of, if you're not into those kind of games, it is extremely difficult to get into. And you haven't played one of them in a while, it's extremely difficult to break back into. Which is another reason why I recommend Strange Journey, because Strange Journey is SMT 1 and 2, but modern. In terms of its gameplay structure and how it's handled. So it's very easy to get into that in contrast, but at the same time you can use that as your like middle ground to 1 and 2. I just have yet to get around to playing 1 and 2. And I'll probably do it off an emulator, because screw tracking down an actual copy of those 2 games when they're as many years old as they are. Like, I think the original is approaching its 30th. I think like 2017 or 2018 was its 25th anniversary, so it must be getting close to its 30th. It might actually be in 2016. It might actually be the 30th this year. I don't think it was. I just recall when SMT5 was initially first teased, it was to celebrate the 25th anniversary. And I can't remember if that was because it was due out the following year, or if it was due out, or if they were thinking it might be out that year. But then in the same vein as Persona 5, it got delayed by a bunch of years. Which, to be fair, I'm happy for it, because I'm hopeful that because it's been delayed a bunch of years, they will make it the best it can be. Because now is the most significant time possible for Shin Megami Tensei to be in the spotlight. Now, Atlus as a company have kind of gone mainstream due to the sheer rampant success of Persona 5 and its spin-offs. So now Atlus are well and truly in the spotlight. Now is when I really want them to hit their punch strong with Shin Megami Tensei 5. But I want to talk about Metroid Dread, because the Dread, like, as I've mentioned before but didn't really go into, is that the Dread project was something that existed since the GameCube era, but was cancelled like twice before it's now come back. And it's now actually a full thing. And it's an in-between of the Metroid team and Mercury's team, which I'm happy with, because I actually like Mercury's team as a company. As one of the few people that enjoyed the Castlevania reboot trilogy, I'm more than comfortable with that. And I heard that Samus Returns, the remake they did, was pretty strong too. But I've got a cutscene, so I've got to shut up for a minute.
Welcome to our land. Just as I foresaw, you have arrived at Asakusa. I cannot say much at this point, but I am certain we will meet again. Your destiny foretells it. Have you already seen your fill of Asakusa? Then you must have witnessed everyone working hard to restore the city. After all, we mannequins have never had a place of our own. As for this place, we stand on sacred ground where only mannequins are allowed. We call this Mifunashiro, the holy land of our people. Beyond here lies our motherland, the place we were born. Even if we owe you our lives, I cannot allow you to pass. I'm truly sorry about that. I must now meditate on the future, for prayer always leads to an answer. What can be done to shape this world so that we mannequins can live in peace? We need this answer soon. Oh, yes. Beware a mannequin named Sakahagi. He is a traitor to our cause, having committed unforgivable atrocities. He is likely somewhere in Asakusa, stalking in the shadows. If he is to hinder you in any way, please understand that he is not one of us. With that, I must be going. Farewell.
Keep this place in the back of your mind for far later in the game. We'll be returning here during the final act. Not as in the final dungeon final act, but in we break into the third act of the game. And we'll be returning. This is one of the places we'll be returning to explore properly. But we can't be let in yet because it's very holy land to the mannequins. And so out of respect, we're not going to touch it. But that's one of the two paths, because now we need to go out and now this time take left and go west into the pathways over there. Because I see over there, you can see it on the map, you can kind of see everything. There's something that the game doesn't tell you, but now it's on the map I can bring up. If you hold down L2, it will show the outlines of every other floor, so you can see where things link up without having to kind of do it yourself by jumping between floors. You can hold L2 and you can see the outline of everything that's there. So you can go, oh, okay, that links to that goes to there, that goes yada yada. Which is really nice that they've got that. It's just weird that it doesn't tell you that. There's not a hotkey on it. It doesn't tell you on the bottom, on the key, that hold L2 to bring up outlines. But anyway, Metroid Dread, really goddamn excited for it. So I keep on sidetracking myself and my thoughts. I'm really goddamn excited for it. I can't stress enough how looking forward to it I am. Mario Party Superstars is something I'm surprised didn't happen sooner. I know it's Nintendo and they've always been kind of weird with their remasters and when they decide to do those sort of things. Also, yeah, over this side, Sakahagi, that traitor's gone on a rampage up ahead. Yeah, we don't have to travel as far this time around. How much blood and gore is everywhere. We'll probably find him pretty quick. But Metroid Dread looks amazing. Mario Party Superstar looks really good. And I love the fact that they went out of their way to specify that it's going to suspend the save of the match if you're doing it online and someone disconnects. Because they know, firstly, Nintendo Switch's servers, Nintendo servers full stop, are abysmal and have been for forever. And secondly, they know that was the biggest criticism when they added online as an update to Super Mario Party. Is the fact that if the internet dropped, and someone dropped for it, the game just ended. You lost the game and that was it. So the fact that they're doing, hey, we're doing classic Mario Party and it's going to be online and it will suspend your save. I very much look forward to not only playing it with friends, but watching people that I like watching on YouTube play it with friends. I want to see Achievement Hunter do it. I want to see Ray Navarez Jr. sit down with Chilled Chaos, Platypus, and I want to say Cheesy, who he's been playing it with recently, but don't quote me on that. It might have been junk. If you're sitting here going, what the fuck are all these names Rob's throwing at me? It's just people I watch online, dude. It's just YouTubers or Twitch streamers I watch. I keep it kind of close bracket. Like I said, the biggest I watch is Achievement Hunter. I don't really watch big YouTubers. I just watch the ones I like. I watch Some Call Me Johnny, for instance. I watch Trigger Conroy when he's doing a Let's Play I'm into. Which I say, I know that sounds kind of backhanded, but it is just, he went on about Skyward Sword and how much he loved it, and I was like, I just really don't agree. I hate Skyward Sword, and so I struggled to watch it, so I didn't. But I'll watch his Pokemon, for instance.
It would have been wiser had you simply handed over your Magatsui. But instead, you dare to oppose me? I thought you were smarter than that. Well, I won't complain. Now I have a fresh, new skin to add to my collection. Who's there? Damn, you had me startled. I thought those pesky mannequins were back. They're all a bunch of weaklings. Save the one who escaped from the mantra. He's been giving me quite the headache as of late. It would have made my life a lot easier had he bled out in Ikebukuro. But I suppose I should thank him for leading his followers here. It's like a Magatsuhi feeding frenzy. I've been harvesting the stuff, matter of fact. Eventually, I'll have enough to dominate all demons. You're a demon. You know how it is. The way the thirst consumes you as you drink your fill. You're thirsty for Magatsuhi right now, aren't you? That's what I thought. You know, I think you and I will get along just fine. Well, I should be moving along. Maybe we'll run into each other again. Just remember, I'm Sakahagi, and soon enough, I'll be the king of all demons.
We'll be encountering him again later on, so... But if you agree or disagree with him, it doesn't affect your stance on the reason, it just affects your morality. It affects whether you're going more chaos or still staying neutral. But because it doesn't matter, because I'm going true demon ending, I'm free to say what I want, which is why I disagree with everyone. Because I just find it fun to do so. I find it fun to just say fuck off to literally every single person I come across. Because I know I'm going TDE anyway. Which, to be fair, I think, in the long run, will still lean you slightly more neutral than chaos, because there's more chaotic beings you'll be saying no to than not. Light pipe for you, cuz I never get stat boosts from Magatamas anymore. You get them in like the opening dungeon, and I swear you never get them again. But back here, the mannequin traitor slasher freak show has already taken all the loot, so that's out of order, unfortunately. But yeah, I watch like lower-ish ones. Like the biggest one is Achievement Hunter. Ray, I like watching his streams, but like I like the fact that he started doing collabs because he really was evasive of collabs for a while. Actually, I say that the other big ones I watch is that I do watch a couple VTubers, not religiously, but just every now and then I watch one or two. Like I'm like the Hololive English. I'm subscribed to all of them, but I'm like the all five of the currently that are there. But I don't watch all of them. I'm subscribed to all of them. Like, I'll watch Callie here and there, and I'll watch Ina here and there because I like her art streams. It's very good background noise when I'm grinding, especially when I'm doing this. To just like have Ina do one of her art streams in the background. Trying to think if there's any other real big ones I really watch. I'm subscribed to a lot of official channels just for like trailers. Like I'm subscribed to Capcom and Square Enix.
Hey, nice timing. How was Asakusa? Well, I've got good news about the nightmare system. If you can call it good news. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. So why don't I just show you? You see it, right? That's the obelisk in Chiyoda. The nightmare system's inside there, along with all the Magatsuhi that's been gathered. In other words, we found the Nihilo's real headquarters. As far as who's operating the system, I'll bet it's that woman they call the Maiden. While I have no idea how it works, it's clear this thing is a threat. I'd storm in there myself if I could, but I'm nowhere near strong enough. Bottom line is, unless someone does something, Hikawa's about to take over the world. So, if you don't want that to happen, that someone might need to be you. You'll need to deactivate the obelisk and return the flow of Magatsuhi in the Vortex world back to normal. To reach said obelisk, you can use the secondary entrance to the Neolo's old headquarters. That entrance is locked right now, but I can take care of that. With this terminal, it'll be a piece of cake. But the obelisk looks like it stretches up forever, and who knows what kind of demons lie in wait there. We don't know what kind of power this so-called maiden has either. All I can say for sure is that it won't be easy. But if there's anyone who can pull it off, it's you.
But that'll have to wait, because we have our next objective finally. We've got to get to the obelisk. A giant tower where we can finally maybe reunite with our teacher. You know, the one that, like, made sure we didn't get murdered in the first part of the game, and then we haven't seen since. Yeah, her. Is it, you know, it's quite far-ish into the game. We're around the midway point. In fact, I'd argue the obelisk is the midway point of the game. It's why the obelisk, to jump ahead a little bit, is fucking ginormous. The obelisk is one of the mega dungeons of the game, I call it. Because it is gargantuan, and you're gonna be spending a long time on it, especially on your first playthrough. And especially if you're not following a guide or anything. I've done it so many times that I managed to get it done in like an hour and 20. But that's still an hour and 20. I break it up over 2 videos. Like, we get to the obelisk today, but I don't start the obelisk today. In the next video I start it, but in the video after that I finish it, because it's just that long. It was unrealistically to fit in one video. Even after I edited out all the, like, repeated encounters that were worthless. You're going to see me go out my way to more prioritize mid armors over anything else, because if you get a mid armor that benefits a demon setup, like, it's kind of difficult to explain until you get a feel for it, but certain mid armors will go with certain types of demons, with certain types of stats, with certain types of skills. If you can make them line up, you'll see when you go to fuse them, there will be an up arrow. That up arrow will hard boost their stats. So it's like you can artificially level them up without it actually affecting their level. And you're going to see me do it a number of times, and almost all of them are towards Daisojo, because I want Daisojo to stick with the party for the full stretch. I've made a point of I want to see if I can keep Daisojo relevant and prominent in the party throughout the entire game. And he's already come undone a little bit, to jump ahead, because the only, like, direct attacking skill he has is Preach. Because Mahaimeon and Marmadoon only have so much effect on them, especially going into late game, with it being instant kills. They're not going to let those instant kills be that worthwhile the later you get into it. There's a couple exceptions, of course. There's a dungeon later on that's got nothing but angels in it. So if you roll up with Mudoon, you're going to have a field day, because they're all going to be weak to dark. But because of that, it means that Daisojo essentially becomes the buff squad and meditation only. Because meditation doesn't do much damage, but at least it's almighty base damage, so it's damage regardless. Around this point, it might be an idea to either get repulse spells, or try and go out of your way to get a Stoma on a demon. The Onis, you know, those red guys with, like, the double-ended swords that you find in Ikebukuro, if you can get one of them to join your party, after 1 level they'll learn a Stoma. And so that might be an idea. The only reason why I'm saying that is because the overworld, none of the encounters in the overworld, like when you're just exploring the field or the vortex world, are usually worth it. In fact, I can guarantee you they're almost never worth the effort, because they just don't drop much experience. What is it, 63 when we need thousands? They never drop much experience. The encounter rate isn't, like, dungeon high, but it's high enough. And it just, like you can already see, sometimes you have to go these long stretches. And to get to where we're going, it is a very long stretch. And to jump the gun, we're going to be making this exact long stretch a second time later in the game. In fact, you can already kind of see it way in the back, like slightly to the left now. On the left of the lifted up rail track, like way in the back, there's a station. That station is something we'll need to take to get to one of the last dungeons of the game. But if you try and go there now, you just can't get in. Also, there's a monster in the box here, which doesn't have too much of a difficult enemy. Like this succubus, it's got Dormina, but if you have Daisojo, it's a joke, because any status condition, Daisojo is going to drain. Because Daisojo is just that much of a beast. Literally, the biggest reason why you're likely to keep Daisojo, other than the reasons I've mentioned before, is how many immunities and resistances it has. It is very difficult to consistently hurt Daisojo for the enemy. So using that to your advantage is gonna really make life a lot easier. But way up here is the Yurakusho station. And the Yurakusho station is straight up blocked. You can't get in right now. But the to give you an idea of how late that is, the very last fiend you'll fight in the game, if you do all of them, is in that station. And the side quest, actually, the side quest I was talking about at the start, which I said I lost 90 seconds on the footage and had to record a bit of it, kind of again, to show you where I went, is in that station. Which also gives you an exact location of where I am in my recording right now. I've literally just entered that very station in the story. And I've yet to record through it and then do the dungeon afterwards. But my intention, because I've got a free day, well, the day of this uploading, it won't be, but the day of me recording it is a Thursday, and I am free all day. So my intention is to edit the rest of this, upload it, and then spend the rest of the day just grinding out Nocturne. I want to break into the actual final dungeon of the game before the end of today in my recording, just so then it's just that to do left. Because as I've mentioned before, and it is going to take effect the day of this upload, I've picked up a new job, and that new job is morning hours instead of evening hours. So my upload schedule is going to start to shift a little bit, and as a whole become slightly more awkward. So I want to have all of Nocturne recorded, so it's just this left to do. It's just the voiceover and editing to do, because I'll get free time to do that regardless. Even if it's later in the day, even if it's an awkward time, I'll get time to do it. But the actual time to get 4 or 5 hours straight to just grind it out when I'm doing 2 jobs isn't going to come by as often. Because I've got the evening job at a supermarket, and now I've picked up a bakery job in the mornings. And so doing both of them, yeah, I'll get that midday gap. And if you've been with me a while, even though I never really go into detail with it, you might have cottoned on that the job I do in the evening, I don't do that many evenings a week. Well, it's like the night shifts, I should say. I don't really do them that many times a week. So I will get evenings and afternoons still. It'll just become more prominent that I am working instead of recording. The only thing that will end up affecting ultimately is live streaming, which I know I don't live stream that much anyway, but as some of you are aware, last year I live streamed the entirety of the Data Live trilogy, the games trilogy, and I fucking love doing it. It's some of the most fun I've ever had on this channel was the Data Live recording, and I've made it clear that whenever it happens that the 4th game gets officially translated to the West, I will live stream that as well, because I just had so much goddamn fun with it. When that happens, I will still absolutely be live streaming it and doing it, but it won't be 2 live streams a day like it was with Data Live, because of how much I was enjoying it. I do a live stream in the morning and a live stream in the evening, and I did it every day till I beat a game. Then I would stop for like a few days, maybe 2 or 3 days at most, and then do it again for the 2nd game, and then do it again for the 3rd. I was like unrelenting with my live streams on Data Live, because I just really goddamn enjoyed doing it. So with Ren Dystopia, the 4th game, I probably won't be doing that just because I won't have the time. Obviously, I'll try and work it out as and when we go, but I've also got more experience from how YouTube acts around live streams to know what to expect going into it, so it shouldn't be too bad because it should be smoother anyway because I'm more experienced. One of the things that made it kind of awkward was that I didn't realize how extremely sensitive YouTube is towards not nude but lewd content. And Data Live definitely has some eyebrow-raising content in it at points. And if it was even remotely questionable, even though when you looked at it, you went, okay, really? Like a full one-piece swimsuit on a character, for example, that was looking at front on and the camera was more focused on their face, YouTube still had a problem with that. And so things like that, I was like, okay, I had to learn and go, okay, so in future instances when that comes up, I need to skip those cutscenes. But I need to skip those cutscenes and then read them back. Or something like that. Because I don't want to spoil the CGs for myself and like the artwork or the cutscenes for myself just by looking ahead so I know what to skip. I'll just deal with them as and when they come. Because there is like a breathing period. Like if it's on for like half a second, YouTube doesn't seem to care. If it's on like 30 seconds plus, that's when it pops up with a problem. But yeah, like I said, if you're watching this and you're a fan, and which if you are a fan anyway, like cheers. I don't know what I did that was so special, but I appreciate it. And you're worried that the schedule that you're used to is going to change, please don't stress. The schedule will mostly be the same. It's just my work time will have to change. The only difference that will likely happen is I'll still do 5 uploads a week, but there's a good chance that it will be slightly later in the day again. Which if you remember from the for a longest time, that was how it always was. I'd always upload around 2 PM UK time. It's only starting with this I started experimenting with doing morning uploads instead, by uploading a day in advance every time, instead of doing the editing and uploading on the day of upload, which is what I used to do. I used to do all the recording and editing for a video in the morning, set it to upload, and then when it was good to go, I would wait until it's processed and then set it to public. And that's how I do it, which is why the schedule was also a little less consistent. Sometimes it would be 2, sometimes if it was like a real slow day, it'd be like 5 before it processed, and sometimes it'd be like 11 if it was like a smaller video. Like, I remember there was one video in Death and Request 2 that was like up before midday, and then the very next video wasn't up till 3 PM, and so it was like a 26-hour gap between them, and I was just like, ugh. There's like 27-hour gap between them. Anyway, this is like the most ridiculous goddamn corridor in the game. Also, you have to enter through the assembly in Elio here, but you can't go back through the original dungeon. Like, you can't access that again. So that original path we went through, where Osei kicked us out after we were done, yeah, that still stands. But you have this insanely long corridor run over here, just because it leads you to an entire other, like, part of the Vortex world. Literally, look at it! Look how big that is! Look how needlessly big that is! That's the corridor equivalent of the MGS3 ladder. But if we go back up to the surface, we will be where the obelisk is. And the obelisk is also a technically timed dungeon. And what I mean is, later on, a new dungeon will appear in its place. But I think you can still kind of access parts of the obelisk. But don't quote me on that, because I haven't recorded that part yet, and I honestly can't remember. The final dungeon, I'm going to level with you, the actual true final dungeon of the game, I have never committed to memory. And I guarantee you right now, I'll be following a guide for most of it. So I never remember it. I go through it and I go, oh yeah, it's this place. And I remember the music, I remember the bosses, and I remember like the beats of it. But I don't remember each floor. And it will make more sense when we get there, because it's the biggest dungeon in the game by fucking far. And that's including the obelisk, which we are now approaching, which is also goddamn huge. The obelisk is, I think the highest floor is above 100, I think. Which obviously you're not going to do 100 individual floors. Like, you take stairs that go up like 3 or 4 floors at a time, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still huge. The obelisk is an absolute wallmark location of this game. It is something that just stands there and informs you this is where you're going to be for a while. But it's why I always mark it as like the direct halfway point of the game. And the thing is, you know, I've mentioned it a lot of times before, but when I first started recording for this game, I recorded way in advance, and I said I got to a point where I stopped for a week. We're at that point. After this video, I stopped in my actual recording. I stopped for a week and then came back because I just was not up for doing the obelisk yet. I was just like, you know what, other stuff's coming out. I can wait. But I've done it now. I'm way ahead, so don't panic about missing an upload. Or like me, me missing an upload even. Like, you're still gonna get it. It's just, when I got to it, I was not up for the obelisk. I was like, that could wait. But I need to actually wrap around to the conversation I actually started this part on, because I keep on drifting away from it, and eventually it's going to be another video where I've missed a chance, because there's another cutscene before the end of this. So, yes, E3. Nintendo won it. Nintendo did good. Nintendo and Microsoft are the two that I think did the best, just because they didn't bullshit with interviews. They went straight to the point with games, spent about 2 or 3 minutes on them at most, and then moved on, which is how I think all of them should be. You can't ever guarantee that everyone is going to be interested in your game when you go to E3. So spending any more than 5 minutes on it is always going to be a black mark, even if it's a good game. I said the only game that ever got away with it was the Final Fantasy VII Remake, because that game had been 2 decades in the making. Also, this shrine way up here in the top right, if you're going for 100%, you're going to want to remember it. If you're not, don't worry about it. But that shrine, you physically cannot enter until you have every single Magatama in the game, minus the ultimate one. So we'll be coming back for that way later. But this is the obelisk. And the thing is, it even goes down. If you look over the edge, you can see floors beneath you as well, through the Magatsuhi, which is what all of this is. This is raw Magatsuhi flowing through the air. This is the closest you can get to the Kazaguchi in all of Tokyo. the giant moon in the middle of all of this, which, by the way, is alive. It's not just a moon. It's a god that is waiting for someone with good it's waiting for candidates with reason before it makes itself available to get to. The whole everyone has to build their own reason, their own path. Once enough people have completely finalized and built their reason and have been accepted by a god to finalize it, which is the ultimate step. Once you have developed your reason for fighting and the reason why you want to develop the new world yourself, you have to have a god accept you. And once the god has accepted you, then it's finalized and you are locked into that reason. And I say you, but I mean as in the characters for the sake of the lore of this world and the lore of the game, like how it works. And once the god has accepted you, once every god has been chosen and everything has been accepted in, which is going to be 3 set reasons. It could have been 4, but for reasons we'll get to later, it ends up not being 4. It stays as 3. But once the 3 reasons are set in place... Oh no, we don't have a cutscene. That's later. My mistake. I'm thinking of another dungeon, so I've got a bit more room to talk quickly. Once all the reasons are developed, the Kazaguchi will make itself available to access, and that is when endgame really starts. But that's for another thing. Next time, we've got the main event of the halfway point of the game. We'll start scaling the obelisk. But until then... You guys take care now. Peace.